Welcome back to the Talk Nats podcast. My name is Kevin Nibley, and we are sponsored by Old DC Apparel. Head on over to shopoldDC.com. Some of the coolest, most original DC fan shirts and hats you'll find. Also running a charity promotion for the 2026 Washington Post Layoff Fund. 100% of all of our charity shirts will go to that fund for the laid off Post employees. You can subscribe to us, as always, on YouTube at TalkNats Podcast. That's also our handle on X. And the audio version is available on every major podcast outlets. All right, so we've had another week of spring games to analyze. I'm not going to get too into that right now. Anyone that knows me knows that I really don't pay too much attention to spring stats or results from this period of the year. But I will say the Venezuela game, you had to like a lot of what you saw there. That was a good looking performance against, a real team. So some encouraging signs from that game. But let's get into our guest. We have a treat today. We are going to be joined by the Chief, Chad Cordero. Saved 47 games for the Nats in their inaugural 2005 season. And he was gracious enough to take the time to talk with us. We're going to break this up into two parts. So it will be this week and then next week with Chad as we head towards opening day. And without further ado, the Chief, Chad Cordero. So right now we are joined by a Nationals great, a man who saved 47 games in the inaugural 2005 season, the Chief, Chad Cordero. Thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I wanted to get into your time playing for the Nats, but was also curious about, you went through that 2004 season in Montreal where you were like in Montreal and then in Puerto Rico. What was that season like in two different stadiums, two different homes, and when did you realize you were going to be coming to Washington, and were you happy about that?
Yeah. It was my first full season in the big league. So, everything was still kind of new and still kind of exciting for me. I heard some horror stories from some of the guys from the year before, where I remember, I think they had a road trip where they had to go from Puerto Rico all the way up to Seattle on one flight. I think they had to stop halfway through somewhere and refuel. So luckily in '04, we didn't have to do that. We had, I think from what I heard, was they had managed to figure out a way to make sure that we only played our games in Puerto Rico in the first half of the season. So we got all of our big travel done early in the season, and after the second half of the season, or after the All-Star break, we were able to kind of relax and and kind of just worry about more so just playing baseball. But I remember that first month of the season in April, I don't think we slept in our own beds the entire time. I'm pretty sure we were on the road that entire first month, in minus 3 games in Montreal. But but it was still a great experience. I loved it either way because I was in the big leagues playing. I was 22 years old. Yeah. Fresh out of college. So it was still all exciting for me, and I loved every bit of it.
Well, now, when you got to DC, you obviously had a great season in that 2005 season, and you played for Frank Robinson. What was it like playing for an old legend like that?
I loved it. Although he was very intimidating. I remember the first time I ever met him, I thought I had blew any chance I ever had of being in the big leagues. So I remember the first time I ever met him was a couple weeks after I got drafted. They had flown me out to Shea Stadium to go watch the team take on the Mets. So it was myself, my dad, and my two brothers, and they wanted me to throw a bullpen out there. So I remember I threw in a bullpen at Shea Stadium, and he's there. Randy St. Clair, our pitching coach, was there, and a bunch of the front office people were there watching me throw. And I want to say I threw 20 pitches, and I think 19 of them were in the dirt, and only one strike. And so, and I remember my dad overheard Frank saying to a couple of the guys, they're like, "This is our first round pick." So I was like, I thought I blew my chance of ever making up the big leagues right then, before he even really got started with my career. But Frank was great. I loved him. He was very old school. He was very hard headed. But that's because he wanted you to go out there and give everything you had. because that's how he played, and he
Yeah.
expected you to do the same thing. So that's why I liked him so much, because he expected to go out there and play hard, and I always got along great with him. He treated me very well, and honestly, I think without him, I wouldn't have had the career that I had.
Yeah. Now, that first season then with him, obviously in 2005, you were dominant, 47 saves, crazy statistics. What was that season like? Take us through it.
It was honestly, it was kind of surreal. We were, brand new city, pretty much brand new team. And we were kind of overachieving that
Yeah.
whole year. And nobody really expected us to play the way we did. Coming out the way we did. I think we were 10 games up on the Braves. I think at one point in first place. And so it was fun. The guys were having a good time, and we were just kind of embracing embracing bringing back baseball to the nation's capital for the first time in 30 some years. So everybody was having a good time. We enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I love history. So being in the nation's capital and being able to go see the monuments, the Smithsonian's, I loved each and every minute of it.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, speaking of historical, you're in RFK Stadium, not exactly a baseball stadium. I mean, very historical for, the football team and their
Uh,
glory years. But what was it like to play in a stadium like that?
it was a lot of the older guys. They found it a little bit tough, but for me, like I said, I was 23 years old, so it was only my second year of the big, so I still loved it. Even though we didn't have some of the same amenities as some of the other stadiums had. I still, it was still fun. You were still playing big league baseball, and anytime we have a chance to do that, it's gonna be good no matter what. But I do remember some of the hard stuff we had to go through. I think our first exhibition game we had there against the Mets, I remember we had no hot water. So after the games, when the guys are trying to shower and it's already cold outside, we're expecting to go in and take a nice hot shower after the game, and it's freezing cold. I think the water was colder than the temperature outside. So a lot of guys were not too happy about that. But I kind of embraced it. I was like, hey, whatever, it is what it is. Still got to go out there and play baseball, and the hot water or the cold water was not very not very great for us after the game, but it was still playing big league baseball, and RFK, it had a lot of history to it, going back to the Redskins days and hearing all about how the stadium moved, when
Yeah.
fans
Yeah.
started jumping up and down. I didn't really fully grasp what that meant until I saw it that first game, against the Diamondbacks, and it kind of scared me to death. I think I tell a story all the time, being a California kid and being used to used to your earthquakes, I
Yeah.
thought the stadium was going to come down after I saw that. So, I was trying to find the nearest exit or the nearest door to go hang out underneath. But, it was fun. I loved it. RFK, yes, it had its problems, but at the same time, we were playing big league baseball, and you couldn't have asked for anything better than that.
Cool. Yeah. Now you had a youngster on some of those teams who, ended up kind of becoming an elder statesman here in DC in baseball with Ryan Zimmerman. I mean, did you expect him to have the career that he had? Like when, you kind of got him as he was a little kid, but, you know, did his trajectory surprise you at all?
Not really.
Yeah.
You can kind of see it when he first got called up. Right after or a couple of months after getting drafted, you could see it. He
Yep.
didn't seem like he was fresh out of college. He seemed like he had already been playing minor league baseball for a couple of years, and he had a little had a couple of things he had to work on. Like he had to get stronger, which he did. Because I remember guys were teasing him because I think that first month he was up, I think he hit a couple balls of warning track, and that was it. So guys were teasing about not being strong enough and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
he went in the off season, got back stronger, and came back. Remember that '06 season, really a changed man. But he was unbelievable. Great kids. He was kind of quiet, but at the same time, he was like you can tell he was going to be something special for the word.
No, definitely. Now, as earlier, we had Drew Storen and Tyler Clippard on, and we were kind of talking about the mindset of a closer or a back end guy. What was your mindset? What was your process? Did you have like a specific process that you like to stick to, or were you okay more in like a free for all situation, or how did it work for you? In your time there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had a certain routine that I did every game. But I wasn't one of those guys where if I didn't do that every day, I wasn't going to be worried about it. But that was just my
Mhm.
routine that helped me kind of lock in a little bit. And so my routine was I was always out there for the first pitch in the bullpen with the guys. I come back in about the third inning, take about an inning off to get a drink a Pepsi or a Coke. I can't remember what we had in the in the locker room. Grab some candy from the locker room and just kind of warm up, especially in those early couple of months. Try to stay as warm as possible. But I'd stay there for probably from the third inning to the fourth inning, and then go back out there in the fifth. Oh, I'm sorry, in the middle of the fourth inning, and then just kind of hang out. And then about the seventh inning is when I would start playing catch with the outfielders and start getting my arm loose and stuff. Because you never know, especially that '05 season. Frank loved to use me in eighth innings and stuff. So I had to be ready from pretty much the seventh inning on, and stuff. So like I said, I'd play catch in the seventh, play catch in the seventh inning with the left fielder, right fielder, or depending on where we're at and stuff, and just starting to get my mind right. A lot of times I would pace back and forth in the bullpen. That was just kind of helping me get psyched up, because I had to get as much adrenaline as possible to make my 90-mile-an-hour fastball look like it was 96.
Yeah.
But that was really my routine. And my mindset was just, like, I was better than everybody. It didn't matter that my fastball was average, my slider was average, my changeup was average. In my mind, I was better than everybody else on that field, and stuff. And so I went out there and showed no fear, because and I was like a different man out there when I was off the field. I'm very quiet and very subdued. On the field, I was very different. I looked like I was an asshole, basically, which I wasn't. But in my mind at the time, I was, because I had to make sure that I was doing everything I could to be successful, and make sure that I secured the last 3 outs for our team to get that win.
All right, so that was our episode. I love that soundbite about being an asshole. You gotta be an asshole to be a closer. And a lot of guys would dance around that question, and he just came out and said it. And really appreciate the honesty, and really cool interview. And we have more from Chad. We'll be back with him next Friday. Please go to talknats.com and shopoldDC.com. Please support both of those ventures that make this podcast happen. We'll be back with Chad next week. We have some really, really, really exciting potential guests on the horizon that I can't quite tease yet, because it's not quite final, but some more big names, I guess, put it that way. We're shooting for the stars here in the first couple months of this show. So, please keep tuning in every week. I do notice more and more people are listening, so I appreciate that. Anyway, with all that being said, enjoy the World Baseball Classic. I know that's going to be a highlight for a lot of us in the next week. And until next time, go Nats.